Hi, I'm Lawrence.
I'm Nick.
Welcome to the Nick and Lawrence Show.
Welcome back, and I don't even know what we're talking about this episode. I think it has something to do with...
Well, the question is, can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street?
I don't know. You might have to tell me.
I don't know.
Let me look on... Well, I can probably look on Google Maps.
Yeah, well, that's true because it is now on Google Maps. I think that's the best way to get to Sesame Street is use Google Maps.
Yeah, I'll get directions for you. So we're talking about Sesame Street.
Talking about Sesame Street.
And we're talking about Sesame Street because...
It is now officially the 50th anniversary this month.
Okay.
In November, we're in November, and so we have just hit the milestone. We kind of briefly talked about when we talked about 50 years over the summertime, but
right.
Now it's officially here. It's kind of like when we did Mickey's 90th.
Right.
You know, it's more. It feels better when a certain anniversary comes in the month, because I think Sesame Street has been doing their 50th since like January of this year, 2019, but we're finally able to celebrate the actual milestone now.
Got it. Okay.
So they've kind of been all over YouTube and every place. Celebrities are doing, as they say, the hashtag "This is my street." So celebrities are telling about their favorite memories, and they're doing like the countdowns to the next 10 days of celebrities doing their favorite memories from people who had been on the show to just ones where they just...
Okay.
So yeah. So for me, Sesame Street started when I was about 3 in 1986, and so I brought some treasures and stuff. This is actually... We'll start with this guy because this Cookie Monster I've had since I was 4 years old. He has my name, permanent ink. They let me with a permanent ink like in Toy Story. But yeah, old Cookie Monster is still pretty good for 30 years.
Yeah, wow. That is pretty good.
And then my nephew got this for me in 2017.
Yeah, that was a little newer.
Talking Cookie Monster.
Hello, it's me, Cookie Monster.
You can even make him do the...
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
So who is the voice of Cookie Monster? Oh, he's shaking.
Oh. He won't stop.
He's going to interrupt us.
Let's see here. I'm gonna let him go down here and take a nap.
Okay, yeah.
While we talk.
Let him go to sleep while we talk.
So
who does the voice of Cookie Monster?
Frank Oz was doing it for a while. In fact,
Okay, quiet, Cookie.
So Frank Oz was doing him from the very beginning until about 2004. I think they've said that he still does Cookie Monster, but a guy by the name of David Rutmere, I believe, now does Cookie Monster currently. But I mean, Frank Oz is still alive. It's just, I mean, he's probably one of the longest veterans next to Carol Spinney who does Big Bird.
Okay.
But yeah, so I brought those toys, just kind of to show my childhood to now, because my nephew knows that I still love Sesame Street, so he got me an updated one to go with my original puppet that I had.
I like it, yeah.
And then
you just got some new things, right, to celebrate.
We got the 50th anniversary. Now this book, so this is the 50th anniversary. We'll go into that in a little bit, and then this is kind of what we can dive into as well, because this was from 10 years ago, and this is the 40th anniversary coffee table Sesame Workshop book. We can keep it on Nick's table for a long time, and when he's having his coffee or tea,
I can browse through it.
So so this is the back. So it shows you and then inside the book they gave us a bonus DVD.
Okay.
And that has the first episode of Sesame Street, and then just pages upon pages of the behind the scenes workings, like you'll see here. Sorry if you got kids who are afraid that we're ruining your childhood, but here is Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch, Carol Spinney in this picture here. So, but just tons of just fun, probably hours and hours of tidbits, Kevin Clash's Elmo, and just different Muppeteer stuff. The back one is, if you go all the way to the back of the book, you have like some of the lyrics to "See Us for Cookie," and I think it's here somewhere. Like all the different Sesame Streets around the world. There was a page that I thought was here, and I'm trying to find it because it had like all the different toys and stuff in this book as well. Well, it's in there.
So everything basically.
Everything
that you wanted to ever know about Sesame Street
is in this book.
So is this just special for 40th, or did you do one for 50th too?
I hadn't seen what people were hoping that there would, because there's new characters and stuff in the last
10 years.
10 years and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty much that. And then this one I really liked. I mean, this is the newest one. This pretty much shows everything in the last 50 years. Disc 1 has, according to this, over 3 hours of the fan favorites from Kermit the Frog to Cookie Monster doing Alistair Cookie and Monster Piece Theater, just a whole bunch of sketches. And I've told people are like, well, should I have gotten this or should I not have gotten this? And my answer is, I recommend anybody who's a big Sesame Street fan, yes, you could get this, because what they've done is Sesame Street used to run up until about the last 5 years or so, used to run as an hour-long show. And so now it's a half-hour show, but what they've done on this DVD is taken and done about, I want to say about 10 hours equal, close to it. I think that I guess it's about 5 hours, because it's 3 hours for the disc 1, and it's about 2.5 hours for the street scenes. So they've taken the hour-long show and split it up into 2 DVDs.
Okay.
But they've taken, so on disc 2, everything that's on disc 2 is every episode. Well, I want to say there's probably about 24 episodes or so. It's about 2.5 hours of 30-minute street scene episodes going from 1983 up to about 2017.
Okay.
So it's not even stuff that's currently going to be in the 50th season, but because we still have to wait and see that's still another week or so, before they get to, we'll see on PBS, because they have to start on HBO now with the shows, and then we get PBS a week later.
Okay.
So look for that on your local TV stations. But like I said, disc 2 is mainly everything from 83 to 2017. And so it does episodes like when Gordon and Mr. Snuffleupagus run the New York Marathon in New York City. So that's fun. And then they have the episode where Mr. Hooper passes away, which was just before I was born. So that one was a little not familiar, but I think they figured out how to recycle older episodes by the time I came along. So they figured a way to cut him out of the storyline and bring in new people. So I never really knew that Mr. Hooper had died or who he was until like 21 years ago when they started. There was a channel called Noggin. It was kind of with Nickelodeon, and they did all the Sesame Street episodes between 69 and 89. So for their 30th anniversary, they did some some older classics and stuff. So it got me into knowing some, who's this character and who's that character, because when I was little, I never knew who Mr. Hooper was until like 21 years ago. So
interesting.
Yeah, but there's other characters I like on the back of the book. You have all the different Muppets here. You got Guy Smiley, and you got the amazing Mumford and Farley and Sherlock Hemlock.
Yeah, those are classic characters.
Yeah. The garbage guy here, his name is Bruno, and this Muppet didn't last terribly long. And the thing that's fun about him was that Bruno was made by Carol Spinney, who did Big Bird. And so he made the actual Muppet, but the problem was that it was just a homemade Muppet that got used for the show in a number of years, and then it went into storage and it got destroyed. So they can never recreate the character again.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know a lot of this. I grew up with Sesame Street too, so I know all the characters. I watched the shows. I remember, vaguely certain episodes, but I think for me the strongest Sesame Street memories I have are from the movies.
Okay, yeah,
so,
because we had Follow That Bird. It was and I never saw it because it was competing with another famous well-to-do movie at that time.
You never saw it?
I never saw it because it was at a time when movie theaters you could only play a couple of movies, and the big box office movie was Back to the Future.
It was 1985?
It was 1985.
didn't realize it was that long ago. But you
But-
still haven't seen it?
No, I've seen it.
Oh, you've
since.
seen it
I've
since, okay.
seen it since.
Okay.
I just never got to see it
yeah.
in the theater.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw it in theaters, but it was on TV every
And
once in a while.
VHS and
Yeah,
like-
VHS. I thought it was kind of a weird movie.
Well, I'm,
You know, I didn't like the bad guys.
Yeah.
And
I think there's a. It's definitely in here in this book somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know where it is.
So
It's
it's,
you got,
I mean, 50 years though.
50 years.
It's affected, you know, probably all of our lives, even our parents.
right.
Like if you're like my parents are in their late 50s, so when it came out, they would have been, you know, maybe around the age that they probably would have caught a couple
Right.
episodes.
They might have caught a couple of. I know that at least getting home from school, and I mean it did run weekdays, Monday through Fridays,
Right.
but I have a feeling that if they were getting home from school and they caught it with their brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
because it's like we talked about some of that stuff, and I thought about, you know, my parents were even my parents were a little too old for the target age range that they were trying to reach. But I'm sure on Fridays they probably if kids got home at 5 on a Friday night, or you know maybe it was on 3 to 5.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, my parents, so it came out in 69, right?
69. Yeah.
Yeah, my parents would have been 7 and 8.
Yeah.
So they probably,
If you had aunts and uncles,
yeah.
they
probably
were
watched
younger
it.
than.
Yeah. And then, yeah, my parents, yeah, you know, like
Right.
siblings would have
Yeah.
been younger and watched it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird, but a lot of people have grown up with Sesame Street.
Right.
And they still are.
I mean, by the time we caught on, we could be in the target age range, because it was actually by the time I came along, they were into their 15th year
Yeah.
of Sesame Street. So, you know, it was nice that there were
That's still a long time.
new episodes
Yeah.
to be able to catch up by that point. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have this show.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
30,
Most shows,
36
shows
years.
don't last 15 years. Like,
Right.
especially these days.
So, yeah, so I just love a lot of the characters and stuff, but it's been really fun because, you know, again, this DVD set and seeing characters that I do remember, it was kind of fun. I do remember that there was a character, there's the guy on the front of the book, here next to Kermit. His name was David, and he was kind of an assistant. He had been on through the 70s. He ended up passing away in the early 1990s, but he was kind of the assistant or owner of Hooper Store when I was a kid. And then, of course, he had some health problems that he ended up dying and stuff. But they never told and said that he died. They just said that he went off to visit his grandma at the farm.
Oh,
And that was
really?
the only. I mean, I think they didn't want to go back and tackle another show on death,
So, yeah.
because
I mean,
Mr. Hooper was the first
Right.
to go, and then other people were
They
Can't-
just, yeah.
passing away. Most people stayed on for the next. Gordon, who was kind of the Roscoe Omar, who played the third Gordon throughout the series, is probably the one who has stayed on with the show since '73. And so he's the longest cast member to be on there. And Loretta Long is still alive, and Bob McGrath. The original two people are still a part of the show, and so is Carol Spinney, even though he's getting in age and, you know, having health problems and stuff.
Yeah.
But the original three, Big Bird, Bob, and Susan, are still around. The original veterans of the show that have been around for 50 years. Now, since then, they haven't been doing as many shows, but are still out there.
So I have a question for
Okay.
you, and I don't know the answer to this, but there's Kermit the Frog is part of Sesame Street, right?
Right.
But he's a Jim Henson
Right,
Muppet, right?
right.
So none of the other Jim Henson Muppets were in Sesame Street, were they? I
Well-
mean, like, you know, Miss Piggy
Okay,
and
well, one of the characters that he created that preceded Sesame Street has been there the longest, because in the month of November, Cookie Monster has a birthday as well. Not just Sesame Street, they kind of gave
yeah,
Cookie Monster in November as his birthday.
yeah,
And so Cookie Monster is actually one of the original Jim Henson Muppets that has gotten some work and finally got his name.
okay,
And so he is an original Jim Henson Muppet. He was on a few Jim Henson kind of commercial kind of things throughout the 60s. 1966 to be preceding Sesame Street by a little bit,
Yeah.
and he was a Muppet that Jim Henson had used for some like snack commercials.
Okay.
So Cookie Monster is an original Jim Henson Muppet that has stayed with Sesame Street for this long and never went, any place else but Sesame Street.
Okay.
Now Kermit started off for a couple of years with Sesame Street, and then the Muppet Show kind of took off. The Muppet movie became a thing, and so Kermit the Frog kind of, went away. In fact,
moved.
well, I mean, when you watch the Muppet movie, which is the first Muppet movie, which is kind of just a couple of years after the Muppet Show started, you'll see a segue between Kermit and Big Bird and Fozzie Bear, and they're off to Hollywood, and they on the Moving Right Along song they kind of talk about they kind of ask, hey, do you want to go to Hollywood? And he's like, no thanks, I'm on my, and Big Bird says, no thanks, I'm on my way to go to New York to break into public television.
Oh.
and to answer that question, because we asked it earlier, how do you get to Sesame Street? You really have to get to New York.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3 Sesame
Sesame
Street.
Street is in New York.
New York, New York.
New York, New York, yeah.
Cool.
But so we actually do find in the Muppet movie that the Big Bird's going to get his big break in New York to break into public television.
Oh,
so they're going
That's
out
fun,
west. He's going out east.
Yeah.
But
That's a cool time.
and then Oscar the Grouch is actually in another Muppet movie, and that's The Great Muppet Caper.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we could do Sesame Street because there's been so many Muppet crossovers. So the cast of Sesame Street actually joins Kermit and Miss Piggy in their pretend wedding that Miss Piggy tries to get Kermit to do, and we see the Sesame Street characters on the groom's side with Kermit the Frog as he's getting married, and we'll see Bert and Ernie and Cookie Monster and several of the Sesame Street characters seen on the groom's side as they're doing the Broadway musical. I forgot what it was that they did, but they did their own little Broadway musical that had Together Again and all that stuff in it, and so the whole Sesame Street Muppets are like at the very end of so they have another cameo. So Big Bird and Oscar got at least 3 cameos on 3 of Jim Henson's movies. Like I said, it was Big Bird, of course, in the Muppet movie, and then The Great Muppet Caper, and then Muppets Take Manhattan, which was, I think, the last Jim Henson movie that he had done before he passed away. But they did their crossovers. But my favorite Sesame Street episode that I got to see, because it did show up in reruns, and of course Big Bird made his way to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and that's one of my favorite memories is when Big Bird and Mr. Rogers kind of meet, or XCL and Big Bird and the neighborhood make believe, and then Mr. Rogers being on Sesame Street. And I think that's become a fan favorite of some people, seeing 2 of the most iconic long running kids shows on PBS at that time.
Sure.
Kind of coming together.
Yeah, that's cool.
So there's there's just so much you could talk about, and then there's new characters. They've got a kid a new Muppet on the street now, Julia, who is autistic, is one of the newer characters that I like. Abby Cadabby has been around the street for the last 15 plus years. She came in 2007, so I guess 07, and we're now in 19, so that's about a little over 10 years there even. But I mean, she's probably the newest Muppet, but now she's starting to become more of a, well, she's still in her 3-year-old Abby Cadabby character, but now we consider her now a teenager now that it's been 18 plus years with that character. So and then there's the fat blue guy who's always getting annoyed by Grover and stuff, and Super Grover, Barkley. I'm trying to think. It's hard to go and pick Muppets. I guess Cookie Monster has always been my favorite, and I guess Big Bird as well. I mean, the list goes on. Elmo was kind of my least favorite of the Muppets, but I think it's because a couple of people didn't know how to handle him in the late 70s, early 80s. So he kind of he was so irritating when I saw reruns as they were making newer episodes. So it was like, Elmo just did not become my favorite because he was always in his early incarnation was always yelling and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's because the Muppeteers didn't know how to handle
Oh.
Elmo and stuff. So,
Okay. Yeah.
and
No.
of course the count is. Well,
Yeah.
but
they're all fun. Actually, I think I liked Elmo.
But yeah, so like when I talk about this 50th anniversary, I think my favorite of this 50th is that they did pick highlights of stuff that go all the way to when I was born, or maybe a year before I was born. So it makes it really nice to have the stuff from my childhood. There's one of the ones that I thought I didn't know about this episode until I saw on the DVD was a storyline where they got the guy. Oh, I can't think of the actor's name now. But he was one of the main stars in Jurassic Parks, and he guest appears on this, and he plays Bob's brother, Minneapolis, and it's a takeoff of Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
And so
That's
Bob's brother comes to Sesame Street looking for the golden cabbage of Snuffletina or something to that effect, and I wouldn't have probably picked it, but somebody picked it out of the cast and crew, and it's on there, and it's some very interesting one, but would have been in the 90s and stuff. But I was like, okay, Indiana Jones at that time, and
Yeah, that's fun.
But I think they picked the right ones. The one that I liked, that I was really grateful for, because everybody asked for a fan favorite of the street scenes, was when Maria and Luis got married, and I would have been 5 years old, about 5 to 6 years old when that episode aired. So that's 30 years ago, and but that is a favorite of mine, and I do remember. And the thing I will say is that one got really big press in the papers. It seemed like back in the 80s, certain shows, and there was a soap opera where there was a couple in soap opera that got married, and there was all the rage in papers and stuff. So by the late 80s, it was finally time for preschool television to get their chance to see their favorite characters in the paper. I think it was General Hospital or some show in the early 80s. That I think it was Luke and Laura's wedding or something. I think that was the couple.
Yeah. Okay.
But in the 80s, they were big. So it was amazing how famous TV weddings of the 80s, including Sesame Street, would hit the newspaper, TV guide, you name it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I remember is 5 or 6 years old. That would be in, and that one was probably the only time that throughout the whole episode, at least the street scenes where they actually sang. It was like an operatic wedding. So every time that they would I think there was 2 scenes that they didn't sing, but really liked the idea that they're all singing up. So if you didn't want to watch Sesame Street on that particular episode, you can turn it off because it's a total musical.
Yeah.
It's this preceding High School Musical.
Yeah, the original.
The original.
Probably a little better.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot of stuff. I mean,
a lot of knowledge.
A lot of knowledge. You have a lot more knowledge in there than we have time for.
Right.
So
we've completely run out of time, and
yeah.
Sesame Street's been brought to you today by C and 10 and by the number 50.
Yeah, and it's been brought to you by the letter N and the letter L. So until next time, we're gonna wrap it up for now. We have, thankfully Sesame Street's been around for 50 years, so there's lots of content to cover, and we'll definitely do other episodes on Sesame Street.
Right.
But
So,
happy birthday, Sesame Street! Anything else to say?
Anything else other than just if you're sharing memories and stuff that they've asked us to do it, we're going to ask you. Hashtag the word "This is my street" because that is the hashtag for 50th anniversary this year. So hashtag "This is my street." If you've got memories and stuff, you can hashtag those words.
Okay, yeah, hashtag that, and then let us know in the comments if you have any memories from Sesame Street, or if you have any things that we didn't talk about that you want to, give us some info on, your knowledge of some Sesame Street trivia, some behind the scenes stuff, just things what was your favorite episode, when did you start watching it, just let us know in the comments, what you remember about Sesame Street.
Yeah.
So,
I'm Lawrence.
I'm Nick, and
we'll see you next time.
But don't forget to subscribe.
And follow our Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, and click the bell for notifications and like this video. So until next time.
Yep. Sunny days.
See you later.